Imagine you are running a marathon,
Okay, I'm picturing it.
but every single mile, someone just runs right up alongside you and hands you a heavy brick.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that sounds absolutely terrible.
Right. And instead of, dropping the bricks, you just keep trying to run faster.
Yeah, you just try to power through it, which is obviously impossible.
Exactly. You're hoping that if you sprint hard enough, the weight of those bricks just won't matter. And, usually when we talk about career growth, there is this underlying, almost unquestioned assumption that the answer to every problem is always just, we'll do more.
Oh, absolutely. It's like this unwritten rule of the corporate world.
Right. We are collectively obsessed with the endless pursuit of productivity. I mean, we hunt for the perfect to-do list app.
Or the ultimate morning routine.
Yes, the perfect biohack, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
cold plunges and journaling at 4 a.m. just to squeeze one more hour of hustle out of an already exhausted day.
It's exhausting just thinking about it.
It really is.
Yeah.
But what if the treadmill itself is the problem? What if the highest performers in your industry aren't actually doing more than you are?
Which is a terrifying thought for a lot of people.
It is. Because what if they're just playing an entirely different game altogether?
That is the fundamental trap of the modern working world.
Yeah.
It really is. It is this illusion that sheer volume just, naturally equals forward momentum.
Right, like being busy is the same as being important.
Exactly. We get so caught up in the mechanics of execution, like the actual physical act of doing tasks, that we completely abandon the architecture of deciding.
We're just blindly doing.
Yeah, we act like factory workers on an assembly line of our own creation rather than, acting like the architects of the factory itself.
And that is exactly what we are getting into today. We have a really fascinating stack of sources for this deep dive.
We really do. Some heavy hitters today.
Yeah, we've got excerpts from some highly influential career strategy texts. So specifically, we are looking at the frameworks laid out in a text called Clarity Reset, alongside this brilliant piece of analysis called The Precision of Selection.
Both of which are just game changers if you really apply them.
Completely. And our mission for this deep dive today is to unpack what these texts consider to be, well, the ultimate tool for navigating high-stakes career moves.
The secret weapon, essentially.
Right. And they call it the Decision Operating System, or DOS. Okay, let's unpack this because we're talking about a total paradigm shift here.
A massive shift.
We are actively trying to pull you, the listener, right out of the exhaustion of endless productivity and drop you into something infinitely more sustainable.
We absolutely are. Because today is all about moving from that chaotic, reactive state of mere productivity into deliberate decision architecture.
Decision architecture. I love that phrase.
It's crucial. Because, if you are putting in the intense, grueling hours required to build a career, you want an absolute guarantee that your effort is pointed in the exact right direction.
Right. You don't want to just be running in circles.
Exactly. It is about engineering your workflow so that your raw effort translates directly into measurable advancement, rather than, just generating a lot of heat, noise, and eventual burnout.
Heat and noise. Man, that perfectly describes the sensation of logging off at 6:00 p.m., completely drained, but feeling like you accomplished absolutely nothing of substance.
We've all been there. It's a horrible feeling.
It's the worst. But before we get into the actual mechanics of how this decision operating system works, I think we need to understand the structural flaw in how most of us currently operate.
Yeah, we have to diagnose the disease before we give the cure.
Right. And there is a specific quote from the source text that I think acts as the linchpin for this entire concept. It says, and I'm quoting here, "At higher levels, success is no longer about access. It's about selection."
That is the pivotal realization right there.
It really hits hard.
It does, because if you look closely at the precision of selection, the text explicitly argues that the professionals who advance the fastest, they don't magically possess a 26-hour day.
Right. We all have the same 24 hours.
Exactly. They transition from a mindset of accumulation to a mindset of precise curation. Think about the traditional productivity advice we are all fed.
Oh, it's endless.
It is fundamentally a mindset of hoarding. Like, how many emails can I clear out today?
How many cross-departmental meetings can I attend just to show my face?
Yes. Or how many side projects can I juggle to prove my ambition to the boss? But at a certain threshold in your career, advancing isn't about cramming more tasks into a finite window of time.
Because you literally can't.
Right. The basic physics of that approach simply collapse. You will break.
Okay, but let's push back on that for a second. Let's be real about what it actually takes to get noticed in the real world.
Sure, so let's play devil's advocate.
If I'm a beginner in my career, or say, I'm trying to break into a totally new industry. The universal advice is always to say yes to absolutely everything.
Right, the say yes to the universe phase.
Yeah, because you want access. You want exposure. You need senior leadership to know your name and see your work ethic, right? Are you saying that entire strategy is a trap?
Well,
Because to me, the traditional career mindset is kind of like walking into a massive, luxurious buffet.
oh, I like this. A buffet.
Yeah, you walk in and you want to sample the carving station, right? And the pasta bar, the sushi, the desserts. You are trying to stack absolutely everything onto your plate because you honestly just don't know what's good yet.
What's fascinating here is that your buffet analogy perfectly illustrates the phase transition the texts actually describe.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The source material doesn't claim that access is inherently bad. It specifies that at higher levels, success shifts away from access.
At higher levels, I missed that nuance.
Exactly. When you are just starting out, you are in the discovery phase. You absolutely have to sample the buffet.
You got to try the sushi.
You got to try the sushi. You need that broad access to discover your core competencies, to understand the organizational landscape, and to figure out where the real leverage lies in your company.
Right, that makes total sense.
But the trap, and this is the reason so many people burn out and stall right there in middle management, is staying in that buffet mindset long after the discovery phase should have ended.
Oh, man. I see. It's when you already know what you're good at, but you just keep piling food on the plate purely because it's sitting right in front of you.
Yes.
You're carrying a collapsing plate out of pure habit.
Precisely. You shift from discovery to gluttony.
Wow, gluttony. That's a great word for it.
While broad access matters immensely early on, the text emphasizes that the professionals who reach the upper echelons, they transition incredibly fast to being ruthlessly selective.
They stop hitting the buffet line.
They do. They realize that they cannot possibly eat the entire buffet, and if they try, the only guaranteed outcome is sickness. So they stop operating on default. They stop doing more, and they start focusing exclusively on doing what matters. They cross the chasm from access to selection.
Okay, so if we accept that selection is the key to advancing, and frankly,
Yeah.
just the key to surviving the modern workplace without losing your mind, the immediate practical question to have to ask is, how?
Right. Theory is easy. Practice is hard.
Exactly. How do you actually operationalize that? I mean, if my inbox has 50 unread messages right now and my Slack is pinging with 10 different urgent requests for my attention, how do I systematically make those selections without just succumbing to massive decision fatigue?
And that leads us directly into the architectural core of these texts, the Decision Operating System.
The DOS.
The DOS. The text defines this as a highly structured, almost algorithmic approach to your working life.
Algorithmic, okay.
Yeah, and it is designed to govern three very specific, highly finite resources. If you want to advance, these are the only three things you actually have control over: what gets your attention, what gets your time, and what gets executed.
Attention, time, execution. I really love the sequence there because usually we just conflate them all.
We absolutely do.
We treat them as one big, blurry blob of work.
Exactly. And separating them is the key to the whole system. The system itself is built on three distinct sequential layers to manage those resources.
Sequential meaning you have to go in order.
Right. You cannot skip a layer. And the very first line of defense is what the text calls the filter layer.
The filter layer.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I decide to install this filter layer into my workflow tomorrow morning, what is it actually doing to my incoming requests?
Yeah.
Let's break down the actual mechanism.
So the mechanical function of the filter layer, according to the source material, is the automatic elimination of low-value opportunities.
Automatic elimination.
Automatic. Its ultimate purpose is not just to save you a few minutes here and there, but to protect your attention, keeping it fiercely focused on what truly matters.
Protecting attention.
Yes. Notice that the text specifically highlights attention first, long before it even mentions time.
Which is a massive distinction, right? Because usually the corporate world is just obsessed with time management.
Oh, completely.
We color code our calendars and block out little 15-minute increments. But we rarely think about attention management, which is arguably so much more scarce.
It is the most scarce resource you have.
Right. So to bring this to life for you listening, the traditional way to think about this is like a bouncer at an exclusive club, right?
Sure, the velvet rope.
Yeah. But I actually think a better way to visualize the filter layer is to think about the spam filter on your email account.
Oh, that is a brilliant way to frame it. I love that. Walk me through that.
Think about it. The spam filter doesn't ask you, hey, Do you want to read this email from a prince offering you $10 million?
Right, it doesn't bother you with it.
It doesn't negotiate at all. It uses a set of predefined, rigid rules to evaluate the incoming data.
Keywords, sender reputation, all of that.
Exactly. If the data hits certain triggers, bad keywords, unknown sender, the filter automatically quarantines it. You never even see it. Your attention is perfectly preserved.
That's a great analogy.
Let's apply this to a beginner career example. Say you get an Avlander invite to a weekly status update meeting.
Everyone's favorite.
Right. But you know from past experience that you have absolutely zero active role in this meeting. You're just a warm body in a chair while other people read off spreadsheets for an hour.
Soul-crushing.
Truly. If you have a functioning filter layer, it acts exactly like that spam algorithm. It rejects the meeting at the door, you decline it immediately, or maybe you automate a polite response asking for the written notes instead.
And let's really look at the psychology of why that spam filter mechanism is so incredibly critical. The filter layer is about protecting your cognitive load before you spend a single second of your actual time.
Cognitive load.
Yes, because if that pointless status meeting lands in your inbox and you sit there for 10 minutes just agonizing over it.
Oh, we all do that. Should I go? Will boss be mad?
Exactly. Maybe I'll just go and put myself on mute while I do other work in the background. If you do that, you have already lost.
Wow.
You haven't spent the hour in the meeting yet, but the opportunity has already stolen your attention. It has drained your decision-making reserves for the day.
That is so true. The mental energy is just gone.
Right. If it doesn't survive the filter layer's predefined rules, you eliminate the noise instantly without any emotional friction.
But look, let's be real for a second.
Okay, let's be real.
Playing a ruthless corporate spam filter sounds phenomenal in a strategy textbook.
It does so nice on paper.
It really does. But if my director invites me to that so-called pointless status meeting and I just hit decline without a word, I don't get a gold star for protecting my attention.
No, you do not.
I get pulled into HR. I get fired.
Yeah.
How does this system account for the actual messy reality of workplace politics?
That is the exact friction point that trips people up, and the texts do address this implicitly.
Okay.
Implementing a filter layer doesn't mean committing professional suicide. It means shifting from passive acceptance to active negotiation.
Active negotiation.
Yes. If your boss sends that invite, your filter layer triggers a script. You don't just decline. You reply with something like, I see this meeting conflicts with the deep work block I scheduled for the Q3 report you prioritized.
Oh, wow.
Would you prefer I attend this update or keep my focus on the Q3 deliverable?
That is so good.
You are still filtering, but you are forcing the organization to acknowledge the trade-off. You are making the invisible cost of their request highly visible.
Oh, that is incredibly sharp. You aren't just saying no, you are actively demonstrating your alignment with their own higher priorities.
Exactly. You look like a strategist, not a slacker.
But here's the catch with the filter layer.
Right.
It is highly effective at eliminating the obvious, the spam.
Yes, the Nigerian prince emails of the corporate world.
Exactly. But what happens when you are left with 5 objectively good opportunities?
That is where it gets tricky.
Right. Let's say the spam filter does its job perfectly. Yeah. And you are staring at 5 different projects you could take on. They are all highly visible, they're all requested by people you genuinely respect, and they all look like decent career moves. How do you choose then?
That is the hard limit of the filter layer. It is by definition a blunt instrument.
It just says yes or no.
Right. It only removes the actively bad. It completely lacks the sophistication to organize the genuinely good. And that is exactly why the decision operating system immediately hands the surviving options over to the second layer.
And here we go.
This is the absolute beating heart of the entire deep dive today. The scoring layer.
The scoring layer. Listen, if you are listening to this on a commute or at the gym right now, this is the moment to really dial in.
Turn the volume up.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Because this is where the magic actually happens.
It is the engine of high leverage. The text defines the function of the scoring layer as actively evaluating high potential options.
These are the ones that survived the spam filter.
Exactly. These are the rare opportunities that prove they weren't junk. Its purpose is to rank them. And the critical insight here, and this is so important, is that it doesn't rank them based on urgency or who shouted the loudest in the Slack channel.
Which is how most companies operate, honestly.
Sadly, yes. Instead, it systematically scores them across 5 highly specific, non-negotiable criteria.
Okay, let's list them out.
They are strategic alignment, ROI, leverage, energy, and compounding potential.
We need to spend some serious time unpacking the mechanics of these 5 metrics.
We absolutely do.
Because I guarantee, understanding how to calculate these 5 things is exactly how you go from being just another busy, stressed-out employee to someone who is actively operating with that precision of selection.
It's the differentiator.
So let's start with the very first hurdle, strategic alignment.
Strategic alignment is basically the foundational diagnostic question. It asks, does this specific opportunity serve the larger architectural blueprint of your career?
The big picture.
Right. Let's say you have an opportunity to take on a highly visible side project at work. Maybe planning the annual company retreat.
Oh, that's a classic one.
Right. It easily passed the filter layer because it isn't low value. It gets you face time with executive. It requires serious organizational skills. Plus, it's fun.
Everyone loves the party planner.
Exactly. But when it hits the scoring layer, you have to ruthlessly interrogate it. Does planning parties align with your stated strategic goal of, say, transitioning from sales into a senior data engineering role?
Right. And the danger here is what psychologists actually call the competence trap.
Oh, the competence trap is brutal.
It is. You might be incredibly good at planning parties. People might praise you for it constantly. Oh, you threw such a great retreat last year.
And we all crave that validation.
We do. So it feels really good to say yes to it again. But it is fundamentally pointing you in the exact wrong direction.
It's a detour.
It's a fantastic opportunity for someone in HR or event management, sure. But for an aspiring data engineer, it scores a 0 on strategic alignment. It doesn't point true north.
Exactly. You have to be willing to walk away from things you are naturally good at if they don't align with where you are actually going.
That takes a lot of discipline.
It really does. Which brings us to the second metric in the scoring layer, ROI, or return on investment.
Now, obviously, we all know what financial ROI is.
Yeah.
You put $1 in, you want $2 back. Simple. But how does the text suggest we apply this to the abstract, messy world of a career DOS?
In this context, ROI is fundamentally about the time-to-value ratio.
Time to value.
Yes, but the reason it's a distinct metric in the scoring layer is because human beings are biologically wired to completely miscalculate it.
Really? Biologically wired.
Yes, we suffer from a profound bias toward immediate visible effort. If a manager sees you typing furiously at your desk for 8 hours straight, they think that's high ROI.
You look busy.
Because you look busy. But the system demands we look deeper than that. If I put 10 hours of deep, agonizing cognitive work into Project A, what is the proportional, tangible value I extract from it compared to putting that exact same 10 hours into Project B?
You're comparing the output, not just the sweat equity.
Exactly. You are constantly hunting for the maximum asymmetric output for the minimum input.
And the reason we miscalculate that in our day-to-day lives is because we confuse urgency with importance.
All the time.
We think the email that needs an answer in 5 minutes has a high ROI just because it's loud, it's dinging at us.
It's demanding attention.
Right, which actually flows perfectly into the third metric. And I have to say, here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, this is the best part.
I think leverage is the single biggest secret to moving up fast, and it's the metric most people completely ignore.
Leverage is where you decouple your time from your output. How do you usually define it in a day-to-day context for people?
Let's use a really simple, everyday career example that anyone listening can relate to. Let's say you work in client relations, or sales, or account management.
Very common setup.
Yeah. You have solid 3-hour block of focus time on a Wednesday afternoon, and you have 2 options for how to spend it. Option 1, you can manually write out 20 individual, highly customized emails to 20 brand new clients.
Welcoming them aboard.
Right. Welcoming them, linking them to their specific portals, answering their bespoke questions, just typing away.
That is the exact definition of a low-leverage activity.
Exactly. You put in 3 hours of work and you get exactly 3 hours of results. There's a 1-to-1 ratio. The second you stop typing, the value creation stops immediately.
It doesn't scale.
It doesn't scale at all. Now look at option 2. You spend that exact same 3-hour block designing, writing, and coding an automated, highly personalized client onboarding template system.
Okay, now we're talking.
Right. You figure out the merge tags, you build the comprehensive FAQ database, you set up the automated triggers in your CRM.
And let's look at the math on that.
The math is staggering.
Yeah.
You build the system once. You do the hard cognitive work one time. And from that day forward, it pays out dividends infinitely.
It runs while you sleep.
Yes. Every single new client for the next 3 years gets a flawless, personalized onboarding experience. And it costs you absolutely 0 additional minutes of your life.
You've bought your time back.
You have completely decoupled the result from your time. That is what a massive score in the leverage column looks like.
It perfectly illustrates the text's core assertion that top performers aren't actually doing more. I mean, the person writing 20 individual emails every week is definitively working harder.
They are exhausted.
They are exhausted. They are highly productive in the traditional industrial era sense of the word. They're sweating.
They're hitting their metrics.
But the person who spent their Wednesday building the automated template, they utilized decision architecture. They decided with absolute precision to ignore the immediate dopamine hit of clearing their inbox and instead focused entirely on a high-leverage asset.
They built a machine to do the work for them. It's brilliant. Okay, so the fourth metric on the scoring layer is one that genuinely surprised me, because you almost never see it in sterile corporate strategy texts.
It's usually ignored.
It is. The metric is energy.
This is perhaps the most profound inclusion in the entire source text. The scoring layer literally forces you to ask, does this project drain your vital energy, or does it give you momentum?
Which is such a human question to ask.
It is. Because it is incredibly rare for productivity systems to factor in human biology.
Right, we're not robots.
But most frameworks treat human beings like unfeeling algorithms. They just say, well, calculate the mathematical ROI, identify the leverage, and execute until you drop dead.
Right, they assume you have an endless reservoir of willpower just sitting there waiting to be tapped.
But the DOS recognizes the biological reality. If you consistently choose projects that drain your psychological and emotional energy, your output will eventually drop to zero.
You'll just burn out.
Exactly, regardless of how strategic those projects supposedly are. By scoring opportunities based on energy, the decision operating system becomes uniquely structurally sustainable.
Sustainable is the key word.
It is. You might be looking at a project with incredible ROI and massive leverage, but if it requires working closely with a toxic stakeholder who completely depletes your mental battery every time you talk to them?
Oh, we all know that stakeholder.
Right. The scoring layer forces you to quantify that hidden cost.
It makes you look in the mirror and genuinely ask, can I actually sustain the emotional effort required to cross the finish line without burning out?
Exactly. Is the juice worth the squeeze?
The text actually makes the argument that managing your schedule around your natural energy levels, like tackling complex strategic work when you are highly energized in the morning and saving mindless administrative tasks for when you are drained at 4 p.m., is itself a high-leverage activity.
It flips standard productivity advice completely on its head.
It really does. It acknowledges that you are the engine of the DOS. And if you don't maintain the engine, the whole system just fails.
You're left with a broken machine.
Which leads us perfectly to the fifth and final metric in the scoring layer, compounding potential.
Compounding potential, the ultimate multiplier.
Now, we all know compounding interest from finance, right? You earn interest on your interest. And over time, it creates this beautiful hockey stick growth curve. But how does the text apply that financial concept to career choices?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, compounding potential is entirely about optimizing for the future.
Optimizing for the future.
The question is, does taking on this specific opportunity build rare skills, or does it forge high-level relationships that will make every subsequent opportunity easier to capture?
Okay, can you give me an example of that?
It is really about building career capital.
Right, career capital.
Yeah.
So if I'm a marketer and I spend a month learning how to use a brand new AI data analysis tool that my whole industry is just starting to shift toward.
That is a perfect example.
Right. That project has massive compounding potential. Because once I possess that skill, it's not just a one-off win for a single campaign.
No, it fundamentally changes how you work.
I can apply that superior analysis to literally every single marketing campaign I touch for the rest of my career. It acts as a multiplier. It permanently increases my baseline value in the marketplace.
Precisely. You are constantly looking for the difference between additive skills and multiplicative skills.
Additive versus multiplicative. I like that.
Additive skills help you complete the task currently at hand. Multiplicative skills make you better at every task you will ever do.
Wow.
So, to bring the entire scoring layer together, When you are trying to identify high leverage at work, you don't just look for what is screaming for your attention.
You ignore the noise.
You systematically hunt for what the texts imply are scoring layer winners. You actively scour your environment for those rare golden projects that hit all 5 marks.
Let's review those 5 again.
They align strictly with your long-term strategy. They offer disproportionate ROI. They possess high leverage to decouple your time from output. They give you psychological energy, and they compound your future value.
When you find a project that lights up all 5 of those criteria, that is where you go all in. You drop everything else.
You hold nothing back.
That is what the precision of selection actually looks like in practice. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But, and this is a massive but, that traps a lot of highly intelligent people.
I know where you're going with this.
Having a perfectly curated, beautifully ranked list of high-leverage, compounding, energizing opportunities is completely and utterly useless if it just sits on a whiteboard in your home office.
Ah, yes, the paralysis of analysis.
Exactly. You can filter and score things all day long. You can feel incredibly smart and strategic while you map out your career on a massive spreadsheet.
You feel like a genius.
But if you don't actually build the thing, it is all just theoretical noise. And that creates the vital bridge to the third and final piece of the architecture.
Layer 3, the execution layer.
The execution layer, where the rubber meets the road.
Exactly. The source text defines the explicit function of the execution layer as converting abstract decisions into concrete results.
Because up until now, it's all been abstract.
Completely. You have used the filter layer to ruthlessly eliminate the noise. You have used the scoring layer to evaluate and rank the true potential of what actually remains. Now, the system demands that you make it real.
You have to do the work.
The sole purpose here is to turn prioritized opportunities into measurable outcomes.
Let's bring our beginner career example, the client onboarding template we talked about, all the way across the finish line to show how this works.
Let's do it.
Let's say that building that automated template was your undisputed scoring layer winner.
It checked all 5 boxes.
Exactly. It beat out writing individual emails. It beat out attending the pointless status meeting. It beat out everything.
It's the golden project.
The execution layer is where you stop theorizing about leverage and you start coding. It's where you actually protect a 4-hour block on your calendar next Tuesday.
You lock the door.
You turn off Slack. You sit down. You build the workflow. You test the triggers. And you actually deploy the system to your sales team.
And crucially, you do not stop there.
Oh, right.
The text is incredibly specific with its phrasing in this section. It demands measurable outcomes.
Measurable outcomes.
Execution in the context of the DOS isn't just about feeling busy or checking a box on your to-do list so you can say, well, I worked on the template today.
I gave it my best shot.
That's not enough. It is about generating a tangible, quantifiable result in the real world. Why? Because the outcome is the only way to prove the precision of your initial selection.
Let's pause on that because I think a lot of people are actually terrified of the execution layer for exactly that reason.
Oh, absolutely. It's scary.
Because if you just stay in the scoring layer, you are safe.
You're safe on the right board.
You are a brilliant strategist in your own mind. But the moment you execute and measure the outcome, you introduce the possibility that your scoring was wrong.
That is a brilliant psychological insight. The measurable outcome is a rigid feedback loop. It's objective reality.
It doesn't care about your feelings.
No, it doesn't. If you claim a project has high ROI and high leverage, the execution layer forces you to prove it with hard data.
Right. So the measurable outcome isn't just you telling your boss, hey, I built a new template.
Anyone can say that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The measurable outcome is the specific data point. It's saying this automated template successfully onboarded 50 new clients this month, 0 errors were reported, and it verifiably saved the client relations team 10 hours a week of manual data entry.
Exactly. That data point, that measurable outcome, is the ultimate proof that the entire decision operating system is functioning correctly.
It validates the whole chain,
It proves that the filter layer successfully kept you away from the distracting noise of the buffet.
which afforded you the mental clarity.
Right, the clarity to use the scoring layer to identify the high-leverage template project.
Which you then aggressively push through the execution layer.
To generate a real-world result that undeniably advances your career capital.
It is a complete, closed-loop, self-correcting system for totally redefining the physics of how you work.
It changes everything.
It really does. We have covered an incredible amount of ground today, and I genuinely hope you listening have felt the intellectual baseline shift here.
I know I have, just talking through it again.
We started by looking at how exhausting and ultimately futile the brute force pursuit of mere productivity truly is.
The treadmill with the heavy bricks?
Exactly. We explored the necessary paradigm shift from seeking broad access to mastering the precision of selection.
We moved away from the buffet of infinite obligations and stepped into the role of the decision architect.
We did. We adopted the decision operating system. We learned how to install the filter layer, that ruthless corporate spam algorithm, to automatically eliminate low-value noise and fiercely protect our cognitive attention.
Protecting attention above all else.
Then, we spent deep, rigorous time in the scoring layer, unpacking the mechanics of how to evaluate opportunities based on strategic alignment, the psychology of ROI, the mathematical reality of leverage, biological energy, and compounding career potential.
The 5 pillars of leverage.
And finally, we brought all of that theory into reality with the execution layer, demanding concrete action and terrifying but entirely necessary measurable outcomes.
If we connect this to the bigger picture one last time, the ultimate, undeniable takeaway from these texts is that advancing in high-stakes career environments is fundamentally a game of precision.
It's not a game of endurance.
No. The highest performers in your field, the ones who seem to make massive leaps forward while looking completely effortless, they aren't actually working more hours than you are.
They aren't superhuman.
They do not possess a secret reservoir of willpower. They are simply deciding better.
They are relying on a system, not their own exhaustion.
They are deciding with precision.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive today, I want to leave you with a final thought. A way to actually test the structural integrity of your current working life.
Oh, the calendar test. This is brutal.
It is brutal, but necessary. The text suggests a very specific exercise. Now that you understand the mechanics of the 3 layers of the DOS, I want you to open up your calendar for tomorrow.
Just look at it.
Just look at it. Look at every single meeting, every blocked hour, every task you have committed to doing. If you ran every single one of those items through your new scoring layer right now, how much of your day would actually survive?
Probably very little.
But I want to take that one step further, something that the texts imply but don't state outright. If you aggressively applied this system, you would likely delete 80% of your calendar tomorrow morning.
Easily 80%.
Now imagine scaling that up. If everyone in your company, from the interns all the way up to the executives, suddenly adopted the decision operating system tomorrow morning.
Total chaos.
If an entire workforce systematically and unapologetically refused to execute low-leverage, non-compounding tasks, would your company's current organizational structure even survive the week?
It's a fascinating question.
Or would it force a total collapse of how we define corporate work altogether?
Yeah.
It really makes you wonder if the system is broken by accident or if it's broken by design. Think about that the next time you get a meeting invite.